get ourselves in a place where we utilize our focus, where we utilize our abilities within who we are, focusing to the point where we find a foundation. And so we start working on our challenges, we start working on our abilities, we start believing in ourselves and our capabilities. And every day we ask that question: is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? If it's not one of the three, I don't want it. And so, where's your mentality today? What are the things that you're working on today, February 28th? And so, as we head into the end of the second month of the year of 2021, what is it that you're focused into? What are the challenges that you faced off against in say the prior year, or the things that you're going through today? And so how do we start utilizing it? How do we start putting ourselves on that ability to start to have an able mentality, to start to put ourselves in a place where we face off against the challenges that we do on a daily basis, the things that you're looking to achieve? What are they? What are the things that you want to master? What are the things that you can see yourself doing that nobody else can do for you? And so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about how we get down to that level where what we're utilizing comes from within, where what we're utilizing comes from the mentality within oneself, within the ability to overcome those kinds of challenges. And so every single person has them. Every single person has a 24 hours in a day. Are you giving yourself the ability to use your 24 hours, or are you stopping yourself from becoming effective? And so how are we starting to find that kind of foundation? What is it that drives a person who is successful? What is it that brings a person to become a motivation? Or, we look at these motivational speakers and we see the work that they've done, we see the end result, but what about the days, the weeks, the months, the years that they put themselves in front of the camera where, they didn't see, the other day I watched an Eric Thomas where there was only 400 people. Now, the guy usually gets 1 million views. But it doesn't matter how many people you have, because if you do something you truly enjoy, if you do something that brings you closer to embracing yourself, embracing your mentality, the ability inside of yourself starts to open up. The ability to overcome the challenges. When you see the millions of people that are going to view this message before they view this message, that's what matters. And so that is where your foundation and your focus is, within yourselves. It's within your own mentalities. And a lot of people disable themselves from having that open place inside, from having that ability to enable their mentality. And you see, people do a lot with less because they see what they have, and they're grateful for the things that they have. They're grateful for the abilities that they have, the vibration that they carry with themselves. And so, are you doing that for yourself? Are you taking yourself to a place where you believe in you, where you face off against the challenges that nobody else can for you? And so sometimes we put ourselves in a place where we put other people's priorities above our own. We put other people's goals, other people's dreams before what we truly want. When do we allow ourselves to be who we are, to have the dreams inside of who we are, to truly sit down and to start to master the person that we are, the person that's inside of ourselves? And how do we start to build that kind of focus? Those are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. Okay? And this is a network where you're going to want to subscribe. You're going to want to leave comments. If this touched you, leave some comment or subscribe down below so I know that you're paying attention to these lessons, so that you can see the worth inside of the value. There's people that are leaving stories, that are leaving parts of how this is affecting them, how the mentality inside is starting to be utilized, how the ability inside of who we are starts to open up. And that's the goal. It's to find a way that when at the end of this, that you can become inspired. Okay? It's so that you can start to see that you have value, that the things that you're going through you can overcome, and the way in which to start to overcome your challenges, right? And so those are the types of questions that I was asking when I was sleeping in my van, when I didn't have anybody around. You see, I worked for Chrysler for 2.5 years. You know, I looked at a board every day, and though I was a part of a team, I always saw that number as first and second place. Why? What gets one to drive to that point? What gets one to put their mentality into place where they start to believe in themselves? What is it that you do on a daily basis that brings you closer to yourself? And you see, those are the types of questions that I asked myself in that time. I asked, is it possible? Can I do this? Can I achieve this? Can I master this level of mentality within oneself where we believe in ourselves, where we start to believe in our ability? And so when you start to do so, when you start to put yourself in that kind of a place where, you start to hear the stories of those people that had made it through worse situations than you and came out on top, it starts to inspire you. It starts to drive you to believe in yourself. And when we start to believe in our own abilities, we start to believe in the person that we are inside. When we have nothing, we find that we have everything within ourselves, huh? Do you do that for you? Have you found that place inside of you? You go to a profession, you go to a mastery, you go to, you're just over brokes. When do you start to master? When do you start to open up the books? When do you start to listen to the CEOs? When do you start to listen to the messages that those people are bringing? Listen to the messages within yourself. When do you start to do that? See, that's the type of questions that I asked myself. I asked, is it possible that they might know something that I might not? Is it possible that if I listen to those videos, I might be able to pull myself out of the situation that I was in? See, I was at a time where I was sleeping in my van. My wife of 8 years had left me. She had gone to Europe. And I was in a place within mentality where I cared about things more than myself. So how do we change that? How do we start to become excited to be ourselves? How do we find the best friend inside of who we are? Really, how do you? And, when we find that person inside of who we are, that's when the light inside of you starts to shine, huh? Wouldn't you say? If you know yourself, then the being inside of you starts to focus. It starts to find a foundation, starts to have a reason to go to do the process and the things that you go through on a daily basis. You see, finding a foundation and focus wasn't easy. Finding a foundation and focus takes time, takes you, takes what you put down in front of yourself, what you look at, what goals do you want to achieve, what masteries do you want to overcome. See, when we start asking these types of questions, we start getting down at that level inside of ourselves. Do you ask yourself that question? How is it possible, huh? How is it possible that you had the challenges that you had and you still made it? How is it possible that the master within you can focus to that point where you can take very little and make a lot from very little? See, I wasn't trying to just help myself when I was going through that. I was trying to figure out how other people could go through those kind of challenges so that I could uplift them as well. I wanted to know what it was like to be homeless. I wanted to know what it was like to be the best in sales. I wanted to know what it was like to drive people who were in queue in their lives. I wanted to know what it was like to be simple, to go beyond one's point of view, to find multiple point of views, to find a way to make it past the ego, to make it past the very essence that stops us from our own growth. Yeah, wouldn't you say? And how can we? How can we start to see from other people's views that your own view is important? See, that's what matters, is what you see inside of yourself, you know? Is it? Have you asked yourself that question? Because I did. I sat down at a level where I had nothing and everything at the same time. I had me, my 2 dogs, closed inside the car, and I found a way to meditate every day. So why don't I just share a little bit about that story? Okay. So when you sleep in your car, first off, have you ever slept in your car? Have you put yourself in a place where you believe in you? You know, a lot of motivational speakers, you know, they sleep in their office. Maybe that was my office. Maybe that was my time. I don't know. But what I do know, however, is that when I was doing that, I started to become creative. I started to focus to the point where what I was utilizing was worth it. I found that you could get water at Walmart, yeah? You could get it at McDonald's. You could get shakes. You could make shakes, that you could deliver food. And that you could utilize your mentality to overcome your challenges, huh? And so, is it worth it to have gone through that situation? Yes, it was. See, it made me see how I wasn't the only one going through challenges. I wasn't the only one who needed that wake-up call, okay? And when we recognize that, that's when the universe starts to work, huh? Wouldn't you say, when you see when people are helping you out and they're allowing you to grow and they're allowing you to find yourself and to be who you are on the inside, that the person inside of you starts to grow, huh? So how do we focus to that point where we believe in ourselves, yeah? Where we start to seek out positivity, huh? And it's not like I was trying to take anything from anybody. No, no, no. I was working on my own challenges inside of myself. You see, when you work with your own challenges, when you face off against them and you have nothing, that's when you start to find who you are. That's where these videos started coming from. They came from the ability to put the mentality in a place where I wasn't going to allow myself to be disabled. You see what I'm saying? It's just a word. When you believe to the point where you can achieve your dreams, the way opens itself up in front of you. It starts to become a part of you. It starts to become a part of your mentality and your ability inside of who you are. And you see, other people start to see that. That maybe the reason why I did that was so that I could understand. So that I could focus to the point where I could believe in myself. You see, that kind of a growth, that kind of a time, opened that up inside. It opened the part where the mentality starts to open up. It opened the part where the ability inside starts to become. Isn't that interesting? When you have just yourself, when you sit down and you start to believe in you and you start to face off against your challenges and you start to face off against, this is all I have, that there's a special part of you that starts to open up, huh? How do we use it? You know, does anyone know? Leave a comment below. How do you use your focus? How have you put yourself in a place where you have faced off against challenges? And I know what I'm talking about. You know, that one time where you had to get up for yourself. You know, it's likened to a tunnel where you're in darkness till you start to try. Just to pick up a pen and paper and to start to write. Or to start to just give one more chance to focus to that point where you utilize what you have inside of yourself. When you start to utilize your ability. When you start to utilize your focus. And so I did that. Other people put themselves in a place where they go through challenges, but the challenges that they're going through is just making it through their day. It's through finding a place of focus where they start to believe in themselves. You see, when you start to focus to the point where you start to believe in yourself, you start to have a reason. You start to pick yourself up and you no longer sink. You start to be able to breathe, gives you a reason to lighten your loads. And so, how focused are we? Are we masters of our mentality? Masters of our ability? Focusing to the point where we're grateful for the things that we have? And I remember a story. I was driving and my bearings on my Prius wore out. You see, I was driving so much that they almost fell off the car. And I remembered as I was rolling around with this Prius who had basically nothing for bearings, I had to stop carrying people. I had to start getting grateful for the simplicity in delivering food. And when we're going through things, when we're putting ourselves on a page where our mentality starts to open up, when we're putting ourselves on a page where our abilities inside of ourselves starts to become. I can't hear you. I got you on video. I'm doing a video right now. So when we put ourselves on a page where what we're utilizing inside of ourselves is that, where we're utilizing that mentality, where we're utilizing that ability, where we overcome our challenges. When you start to see things moving in your direction, when the universe decides to yield to your own focus, that is when it starts to lighten up. That is when it starts to become worth it. And so that page only comes if you're willing to continue, if you're willing to grind, if you're willing to put yourself in a place where you just try. And each of us can find that inside of ourselves, inside of our mentality, when we are willing to put ourselves to the point where we focus. When we're willing to try even when we don't know if there's a way. When we're willing to focus to the point where we believe in ourselves, where we believe in our abilities, where we believe in our mentality. So are we enabling it? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. Are we finding that part inside of ourselves where even the simplicity and the things that we do open us up? Even the simplicity inside of the mentality opens up. And so, are we focused to that point where what we have is worth it? Are we focused to the point where we use our challenges, where we use our ability, where we use our focus and our knowledge, where what we're going through, we have the ability to make it through. And how do we focus to that level, you see? How do we find that page inside ourselves to continue even when we're exhausted, even when we don't know if we can make it, even when we're doing everything that we can and we're still falling short? How do we focus to that point where what we have inside of ourselves is worth it, where we can do it, where we can believe in ourselves and our abilities? See, focusing to that level where vibration works, where even failures become successes, where mentality opens up, where the ability inside of ourselves is to be ourselves, to be who we are, to believe in ourselves that we can overcome our challenges. And it takes one stamina to get there. It takes one's ability to continue even when you're exhausted, to be within one's being to that level, to be within one's being to that ability to focus to that place where you're using the gifts and the tools that you have, where you're using the person that you are inside, the reflection that radiates outwards, the ability that comes from within, the vibration that radiates light outwards. And so, are we focusing to that depth? Are we finding that place inside of ourselves? Are we becoming that kind of light in the universe where what we're utilizing today is worth it? And I focus to that level. I inspire you to find that part inside of yourselves that allows you to continue to push forward, that allows you to continue to move in a direction towards your mentality, that allows you to believe in yourself to the point where you overcome your challenges, and allowing positivity to fill that space, to fill that part inside of who you are, to be who you are on the inside, to face off against the things that you face off against, that you can believe in yourselves, your dreams, your goals, your purpose, and that you can believe in your path. So, how do we focus to that level? How do we find that inside of ourselves? How do we find that inside of our mentalities, inside of our abilities? How do we get to that depth where we utilize what we have inside, where we focus to the point where we overcome our challenges, where we have what it takes to manifest? And when we do that for ourselves, when we give ourselves that place where we focus to that level, where things become a manifestation, then our vibration is being utilized. Our ability inside of ourselves to overcome our challenges becomes possible. And when you see it and it becomes a physical substance, when you're focused to the point where you're going to make a way if you can't find a way, that you are going to actually craft it with your own hands, that the challenges that you face off against aren't greater than you are, that you can utilize this universe, that the Most High, God's blessings can come down upon you, that you can believe in the Creator in such a way that the blessings come through you. And you see, when I asked myself that question, is what I'm doing today, is it motivation? I recognized that it was the reflection that other people were seeking. It was the reflection that was creating in this world. It was from within out, that when we're no longer being crushed on the inside, that we radiate light outwards, that when we focus to a part of our being where we achieve a part of ourselves, where we focus to that level where we believe in who we are. And so, are we doing that for ourselves? Are we listening to things that are bringing us closer towards positivity? Are we putting ourselves in places where things are vibrating outwards from within who we are, where our abilities to overcome our challenges become possible? And as I sat in that vehicle, as I sat in that place, I started to recognize that it was a gift to be by yourself, that when you are by yourself, you are learning, that when you are by yourself, you are achieving, and that when you have that chance for people to be a part of your journey, that it's worth it. That is what I learned from sleeping in my van, my friends. What have you learned from being by yourselves? What have you learned from believing in yourself? What have you learned from achieving your dreams and your goals within who you are? You see what I'm saying? Ask yourself those types of questions. Why are you putting things down on paper? What is it that you're writing down? What is it that you're achieving? What is it that you're vibrating to that level that it becomes possible? That it becomes achievable? That it becomes a part of who you are, and that you start to believe in yourself to the point where you have that ability to overcome your challenges. See what I'm saying? How do we focus to that level? How do we find that place of foundation to where we're unshakable? Where we have the ability inside of ourselves to overcome our challenges with a positive mentality. A positive ability inside of yourself, the utilization of that part of your mentality to where you're going to find a way if you can't make a way. Or make a way if you can't find a way. It's within you, is what I'm saying. It's within your ability to be who you are, to be the blessings, the tools, the gifts that you have, the mentality that only you have. And so how do we focus to that point where we are not comparing ourselves to somebody else, where we're achieving our own path, our own journey? After all, each individual has their own path. They have their own journey. They have their own purpose, their own mentality. And you see, when you allow them to do that, when you allow them to expand within that, they start to choose what's positive within their own lives. They start to want it for themselves, not for you. That's the key, is to enjoy people as they are and to allow them to grow within themselves, to enjoy them for the person that they are. The focus to that point where it's about your own path, about your own journey, that those people that are meant to be on your journey, they'll join you on your journey. So, are you focusing to that level? Are you asking yourself that kind of question? What is it that I'm listening to? What is it that I'm reading? What is it that I'm writing? Is it bringing me closer to becoming a reflection of motivation? As we go through this day, try that. Give yourself just that little ability to focus to that point within yourself where you utilize what you have inside of you, where you work with your challenges and you embrace your challenges. You see what I'm saying? Become a friend with the universe. Next up, we're going to talk about some we're going to talk about something that's very special. Okay, we're going to talk about the ability to focus to the point where no matter the challenges that you're facing off against, you can find the meditation within yourselves. That you can find the ability inside of yourself that you're worth it. That when you center yourself within your being, when you center yourself within your purpose, when you center yourself on this journey, when you start to overcome those kinds of challenges, that you're going to want to head inwards, okay? You're going to want to be inside of yourself. You're going to want to be going through the challenges and overcoming them in a way that you stay positive, okay? When things pass, when the things that you're going through, you have the ability to make it through. When you continue to focus to that point where you go inwards, when you continue to focus to the point where you utilize your mentality, where you utilize your ability, where what you're focusing into, you're